So, hi and welcome to the Front Forum Focus podcast. Today I have a very special guest here. She is focused on impact and she's helped people discover impact by empowering their voice and the power of communication. So, here, please do a small intro about it.
Thank you so much, George. Oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you and be here, and I really appreciate you having me on your podcast. You're just wonderful, and I appreciate the support on the journey that I'm doing, and you're doing amazing things too. So, I'm always happy to be able to help support you in that role too. So, thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
So, Yeah, so a little bit about me. I wear a lot of hats. I started out as a radio personality, so I talked on the radio for most of my life. I then moved into, I guess, more of like the web space, influencer space. I started a website many years ago called tipsfromtia.com, where I give tips on health, beauty, home, mental health, like all of the things that people stress about on a daily basis. And I try to just make their lives a little bit simpler. And that has been a passion project of mine for many, many years. And I never really expected it to do anything, but it kind of blew up and got really known worldwide. And I think it has like 40,000 subscribers on it now, so it's really just making a nice ripple effect in the world, just helping people with everyday life problems. And then I ended up leaving radio when the pandemic happened. And it was one of those things like, oh my gosh, I think like everybody else, what are you going to do? You got to make some changes. And, are you willing to travel across the country or around the world at that time? No. So I kind of decided I would go back to my writing roots. And that's where things really kind of changed for me. I ended up doing a TEDx and that went viral right after the pandemic. And I just wanted to help people, kind of combat their stress. That's a worldwide epidemic that we're dealing with on a regular basis. Everybody's always stressed out. So I made sure that I really gave the tips on how to help, combat that. And then it was thereafter when I got approached to help people start communicating better. It's my background for, like I said, most of my life. I realized that communication is key in so many factors of what we're doing, business impact, all of that. And most people really struggle with communication. So, for something that comes really, I guess, simple to me, I wanted to be able to help others not be so intimidated by it. There's a strange statistic out there that it's like 80% of the population has this fear of communicating, this fear of speaking, and it's called glossophobia, and real thing. I've seen it in action. I've seen people just completely become paralyzed with fear on the fact of trying to communicate with somebody. To be able to go in and help them and kind of retrain them, and take the fear out of it. It's been wonderful, so rewarding, because we all have this gift of voice, and with our voice we can make so much change. So I'm happy to do my part.
Yeah, sounds super inspiring. So, I want to kind of go a bit into your journey, maybe like, so you started as a radio presenter and then you moved to your passion project. So did you discover your passion project when you have already started your career?
So I think the passion project has always been with me. When I was even a kid, I always had tips for things. I always knew how to get a stain out of this, or how to, fix that. And when I was a little kid, my friends even called me MacGyver. It was like an old TV show that always made me laugh, because I remember that was the guy always had a fix for something, so it really fit. But I transitioned, I guess, like as I got older. I always did some kind of form of tips from Tia. So it was, I guess, when I was in high school, it was like writing about prom and pimples and, things like that. And then, as I moved in to, young adulthood and, kind of being out there in the world, it was like, oh, how to, do things around the home, to, you know, make it look more homey on a shoestring budget, things like that. So there was always some kind of form of tips from Tia that has followed me. So to me, it's really no surprise that it's still with me today. It's funny. I have to take that back, George. Actually, when I realized it was still with me, I was surprised. I was like, wow. But when you think of our great passions in life, and
Yes.
you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, it's still with me. It's amazing. And it shouldn't be surprising. It's
Yes.
still there.
So the tips from Tia is still with you. So what is the vision for tips from Tia in the next few years?
So for the vision with tips from Tia, um, it's a good one. I tell people, I'm like, the easiest way to put it is like, I want to be the Martha Stewart of tips. I mean, it just sounds so funny to say that, but like Martha, she did it right. She really did. And it's one of those things where I want to help people. I give my tips as a gift to reduce stress or make their lives a little bit simpler or beautiful. Make them a little bit more beautiful in the day and take away the frustrations of life. And um, so the plan with that is we're in process of we're going to rebrand. The website is dated at this point. I laugh. I'm like, yeah, it used to be the bee's knees when it first came out. It was very, um, edgy and trendy and top of its game when it first came out. But we have over 40,000 tips, I think somebody told me on it, and it's really like blog style looking. So we're going to convert it into more of a resource where it's very user friendly, searchable. You put in the search bar lemons and you get like 12 articles on what to do with lemons. So we're in the process of revamping that. And then through that process, bringing in new technologies and also staying up to date with, the fact that people appreciate reels and videos more. So, working through that progress of it. But the goal is to really just have it be a self-serving resource where it's helping people on a daily basis. And you put in what you need help with, and you're going to get the answer. You're going to get the right answer. You're not just going to get some answer that search engine it and you still have to try it out because it may or may not work. This stuff is tested. We test the majority of our tips and make sure that they are accurate and they work. So that's what makes us different than everybody else. But down the line, I think in the next handful of years, I really would love to see us have a home goods line of products in like, smaller retail stores. Well, not small, but, I guess more of the affordable, everyday retail stores where, it's just products to help with making life a little bit easier. So that'll be cool.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Yeah.
So from your perspective, what are the most important things to make life easier? So which are the most top tips? Um,
Well, I think the most important thing people need to realize is they're not alone. I think that is the hardest thing people go through. They think, especially when something happens, they're like, am I the only person this has ever happened to? Probably not. More than likely, no. It's probably happened to many, many, many people. And, it's the answers out there to kind of help you. So being alone, it's always nice to know that you're not. And then I guess next would be making sure that you're practicing self-care. So many people forget to practice self-care. They think they got to get out there, especially entrepreneurs and business and leaders and things like that, right? They think they have to go out there and they have to grind. We talk about SG, right? And they have to go out there and they have to grind and grind. And it is a grind, but it's not grind yourself into the ground. People don't realize that. When you look at when you look at, a structure, right? You have to grind down into the ground to get your footing post, right? But they have purpose. You're not just, it's just like grinding down into the earth for meaningless stuff, it's like the foundation. You have to create the right foundation, and you have to grind in all the right spots to make that foundation solid, right? So if we're just grinding ourselves and not taking care of ourselves, we're just going to burn out. So practicing self-care is super important, and it really makes a difference, I think, between those that succeed in this world, in this space, opposed to people that don't. So yeah, practicing self-care. And I mean, when we talk about that, it's getting the right amount of sleep that's right for you, getting the right nutrition, because if you're not eating and you're filling up with empty carbs or whatever, like you're going to be tired, and it's just not going to help your body. But then making sure that you take that mental break for fun, and that space. I tell people it's really interesting when you can, like, categorize your day, like, 3 hours here is dedicated to this, then, 2 hours here is dedicated to that. And don't forget to put in playtime. I think one of the biggest problems people have nowadays is that work-life balance. And I'm going to tell you, I struggle with it too, and it's trying to get that balance of life where you are, giving priority to this, but you're also giving priority to that. And I think it kind of works different for everybody, where it's not 50-50 throughout the day. Sometimes, some days it's, you really have to give 80% to the work, and 20% to the family life and all of that stuff. But then the next day, it's absolutely opposite, and it's all 80 at the family and 20 at the work, and so I think there's no hard and fast rules. Make sure you give yourself some grace. And then I guess another tip would be, definitely, I guess it goes along the lines of like the self-care, but find ways to de-stress. Find something that really makes your life makes sense. And it doesn't have to make sense to other people. I know some people love to walk. I have one person that I know, they love to just get out there every hour and do like a 2-minute walk outside. Is their way of grounding again with the natural frequencies of the earth and all that stuff. So you got to find that thing that works for you to de-stress. For me, I think it's just getting up and just moving around in my space, changing my mindset for a minute. Sometimes they talk about the scroll, the doom scrolls, and things like that on social media. Well, if you go in with an intention of finding something that makes you laugh for 2 minutes, do it. you know People have no idea how much smiling and laughing can just change your whole entire outlook on life. So if you got that 2 minutes to spare and you need a reset in the brain, find something that's going to make you laugh. I'm not going to judge you for scrolling.
So, um, like, how do you tailor your approach to empower individuals with different communication styles or challenges?
So I think it's important to let people know that their voice matters. I think we live in a world society where people, they're unsure about that. They don't know. They think, oh, I don't have the money, I don't have the connections, I don't have the education, things like that. These are all things that can really make somebody start to lower their voice, to become mute. And I've learned that our voice really can change the world. you know and if we use it properly, um, we can really cause these beautiful ripples to affect the planet. And I think people have some misconceptions on how to use their voice, and I'm not here to tell you, like it has to be done this certain way. I'm telling you, it doesn't have to be done certain ways that people think, right? You got to do what's best for you, but people think you have to be loud. You don't have to be loud. A soft voice can cause a massive movement. It's really wild how it works, So thinking that you have to be loud or aggressive, you don't have to be. You can just really become the authority on what you're talking about and share that, And people like to be able to relate. So it's finding those ways to make your purpose relatable. We have some, things out there where people will just come out and they're trying to be very loud on a movement, or they're talking about something that they hardly relate to, but they're not telling us why it's important to them. And if we don't know why something's important to you, how can we support that, right?
Yes.
So I think that that is one of the things that I really, help my clients with, is finding their story, finding out why it means so much to them, why it's in their soul, why it's in their heart, and then I allow them to bring it to the surface and then be able to share it to make that impact. So it's such a rewarding process. It's really gorgeous to watch um, something like that grow, and it's really beautiful. I don't know. It's like watching a flower bloom in nature. Like it's that powerful. It's so amazing. So I love being able to do that for people.
Cool. So you have around 40,000 tips. Tell us the process of
Yes.
coming up Tia's tip.
The process. So, coming up with everyday lifestyle tips, that that kind of just came from people having problems. Everybody's got problems, but it would be, I mean, like I said, it started when I was a kid, so it would be, oh my gosh, I wake up, there's a blemish on my face. How am I going to get rid of that? And how am I going to do it quickly? How am I going to do it naturally? I was always very sensitive. I had lots of allergies, and I had sensitive skin, so it was like, oh my gosh, I need to find something that's not going to make it worse. Um, I could go out and buy a product. And I think that's what it was. I think I went out and I bought something, and it just made like my face worse. It was like everything turned red. And as you see, I'm very pale, so like all of a sudden I looked like I had a sunburn. And I was like, there's got to be something out there naturally that can fix this. And then boom, it was successful. And then, then people started asking me like, okay, well, how do I do that? And then I started sharing that. And then it would be more things like, oh my gosh, I got split ends. How can I fix that? So it was very much appearance, probably beauty is really where it started from. Then it started into, every day, like, oh man, I got a stain on the couch. My parents are going to kill me. How do I get this out? So there was a lot of things that I would do, helping friends out or family out, and a lot of different trial and error stuff. And then little did I know, it would just come so naturally to me. I would hear things too. So there was a book when I was a kid, and it was like, before you call the doctor, like try all these things before you call the doctor. And I was so fascinated by this book, because it has some really cool natural remedies in it, and just some like really good information. And I remember thinking like, this book is like such a great glossary, or resource for people, right? And I retained it. That was the coolest part. I was able to retain it. So when somebody would say, oh my gosh, I have a cold coming on, I'm like, da 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 da, and I would just be able to like spit out a few different ideas on what they should do, to shorten it or to get over it or to prevent it or, different things like that. And so I really started to become that resource for family and friends. And then it just started to grow into community and then larger and larger. So, it's an honor to be able to do that for people.
Very, very cool. So, tell us about what you have learned from making these tips and these things.
So I've learned that, again, we're not alone. I think that was really a cool thing. We say that, but then when I when I started sharing these tips, I did not know if they would do anything, honestly. I started this website because I was actually going through my own health issue at the time. And I was using it kind of as therapy, because I didn't want to forget all these tips that I had in my head. And, I didn't expect anybody really to read it. And within 6 months, it blew up. And I mean, it was all over the world. And to find out that I was helping people on such a level, we think that we have to, to achieve greatness, we have to do like these incredible feats that challenge us, and sometimes it's not about what challenges us, it's about our gift and what comes easy, and we're sharing that gift with the world, and that's what makes the impact, you know so I never thought that me sharing how to use cornstarch, on the carpet was going to really make these ripples, but it did. And when I got this one letter, I got an email back from this woman in Europe, and you could hear, like, she was in tears, just thanking me for, providing this tip on how to help combat a sugar rush. And, she was having trouble with her daughter, who was a toddler, and she would have these sugar rushes and then these crashes. And she was like, I couldn't take her to birthday parties, nothing like that. It was very disheartening, and it was a lot. Anyway, put out a tip there to always combat a sugar rush with milk. So we've heard of milk and cookies, right? I did not come up with this. This is just, it's regular. It's something that's been going on forever. There's actually a science behind it. And that's the thing. I learned that there was science behind it. Like there's sugar in obviously cookies, cake, different things like that. But when you pair it with milk, there's sugar in milk, but it actually neutralizes one another. So it keeps people on an even keel. And so to just share that simple tip, that there's actually a science behind it. And so next time you're dealing with an overabundance of sugar, make sure you drink some milk, and it'll neutralize you. It makes such a difference in somebody's life. And I love to be able to share that. How cool is that?
Yeah. It sounds like we just came up with a new formula for producing some new food product.
I mean, I think that this stuff was known, back in the day, like way back when. And then, it just gets lost in translation over years and decades and centuries, right? But there's the cool part is like with what I do, I know that there's a lot of science behind things, and I read like a lot of medical journals for fun, and I said for fun. I enjoy myself doing this, but I love being able to really understand, the nature behind a lot of these things. So it's fun for me. I am able to share it with others, and obviously it takes the guesswork out of it for people. I think that's why it's been so successful for all these years too.
So I having met people who struggled with communication, I think now, and also like having these tips to overcoming daily challenge. What kind of growth have you seen them have after being able to communicate? And maybe like what was the most common thing for like their challenges with communication.
Okay, so most people's challenge with communication is I think they're afraid of not being heard. I think that seems to be like the common denominator. Most people are afraid of not being heard, or why would anybody want to hear from me? Why is it important? Um, so, being able to overcome that, that's probably one of the first things that we tackle. It's been really cool to be able to kind of like help somebody pinpoint where that like even started in their life. And, it's an emotional journey. Don't get me wrong. It is an emotional journey that we kind of go through. But on the back end of going through that journey, it's breaking down walls. And I think that is the common thing that most people will say afterwards. They can't believe these walls that they got so used to being there, have been broken down. And then from that, their world opens up. And a lot of times, I mean, like, let's put it in the simplest form. A lot of times there is such a return on investment by, leaps and bounds, right? People are getting more money because now they, they have a voice, and it's not a demanding voice. It's not, I need more money. It's they've found ways to now use their voice. So like people in sales, they end up having like 30% increase in their profits, because they learned how to use their voice properly. And, I mean, I've worked with people from having trouble communicating with, two or more people to people that are out there and they're already up on stages doing it. They just felt like they were hitting a ceiling and not able to reach the full connection. And I help them reach that full connection. So it's really a life-changing experience. And I don't say that loosely. Like it really is something that you're going to learn these exercises, these tips, and you're going to dive into your life and your experiences, and then you're going to take it and remember it for the rest of your life. It's really cool. It's really cool to be able to do that.
Yes. So one of the few last questions. So like so you tips from Kia started when you were a kid, right? So obviously there were some trends happening like from your time. I think there was no like um people stuck on smartphones. Obviously technology had not been super big as it is now. Now there's like different trends happening. So how are you like balancing different tech trends, and what are you seeing like the changes in communication that are happening, as technology advances?
So as technology advances, honestly, I think the biggest challenge that people have is attention spans. Oh my gosh. It's, it's been proven scientifically that goldfish actually have a longer attention span than humans right now. And
Yes.
that is that's beyond scary. So, um, I think that can be reversed. I don't think that that is something where humans need to stay there and, live in that fishbowl because I don't think it's going to be beneficial to be in that space. But people are very used to getting information fast and on to the next, fast and on to the next. And it really has shown up in people's productivity. We live in such a disposable society, and I think people are getting tired of that. So, in the way of communication, I think that it's important to bring back the attention span and bring back that intentional communication and that intentional listening.
Yeah.
It's not about listening to respond, it's about listening so you can learn. And I think that people are getting back to that. Now, with that being said, a lot of times what we work on, me and my clients, is that I will give them techniques how to bring audiences back. So, even if you're talking about the most interesting thing in the world, people are they're gonna drift. Oh, I got
Yes.
to do this, I got to do that, but you got to be able to bring them back. And when you bring them back, you're able to really bring them back to that point of intention. What is the purpose? What do you want them to learn? What do you want them to take away? I think that being able to teach that has been one of the coolest tricks for my clients, for sure.
So, what role does listening play in empowering others through communication?
So what role? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Broke up.
What role does listening play when you are
Oh,
communicating with others?
oh, everything. Listening is so important. One of the first things I really teach is when to shut up. It's so funny because that's how I say it. I'm like, we need to learn how to shut up, because when we are able to do that, we're then able to listen, and that is where listening allows you to learn um, about the subject, about the person, about yourself, how you feel about something, your opinion, being able to formulate, what that opinion of yours is, and it takes off this emotion. Like so many people just speak out of emotion, and they it's not formulated, it's nonsense, and it gets very chaotic. So, when we are able to listen and we are able to absorb, we've been put to the test a lot as a society over the last several years, and some people are succeeding and some people are not succeeding in the fact of listening before responding. But I think that being able to listen allows us to learn a lot about everything. And when we are able to learn, that is where the power comes in. That is where all the good comes in. So uh, definitely important to be able to listen instead of just speak all the time. It's probably the largest part of communication.
So, if someone is listening and wants to start their journey to impactful communication, what steps would you advise them?
I would advise them to know um, what gift are they giving. What what are they chasing after this? Because if it's the money, you're never going to be successful. It's not about the money. Money's just a tool. You have to have your vision, your mission.
So, as we come to the end of our podcast, what you have mentioned how we are working globally now. Like, what a tip that you will tell like a listener who is globally has all these challenges around communication, obviously wants to improve themselves and make their impact. What's your number one tip from? So, it was a very inspirational talk today with you, and I'll share like the website so our listeners can be able to um, benefit from your tip. And also, if anyone wants to reach out to you, I'll also share maybe your email and also like your TEDx. It was really nice having you here. Really inspirational talk, and I think I also learned a lot about communication, and I hope it to use to use your tips more, and also like you know um, now use them for more impact. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe.